I'm just going to move this up. It appears that you can hear me better if I use the mic today. Microphones aren't usually my friend, but they may not be yours either by the time we finish. My name is Donna Hatt. It is my privilege and opportunity to be here at White Point every day to be the champion for our establishment, for you, our community, and the many hands that have enabled us to come back so very quickly in under 365 days. So to all of you who are joining us here today on what is a very special day, that we wanted to create an opportunity for White Pointers to participate with us in a process, welcome. There are a couple of key people before we get started here that Danny Morton, our GM, myself, along with our team would like to acknowledge. First of all is our guest of honor, which is Bev Krause, who we've just assigned a little chair here. Many of you will be familiar with Bev at this point. When we began this journey, and I approached her realizing that we had lost a piece of who we were in a quilt that I had carted around everywhere. And yes, Lynn Hupman, I made a mistake and put it in the washer and dryer one day. And all of you are like, oh, it survived. And it continued. We lost that original quilt, which Lynn Hupman, who is here with us today, who, along with a variety of quilters with the group in Mill Village, had created that first quilt. And it was a real pleasure to have been able to cross paths with her. So if everybody could wave to Lynn and say thank you with us for having bridged that travel. Thank you. Lynn and her team are woven throughout the story of our White Point quilt as we begin to head off on this final chapter in the story quilt. I want to, while I acknowledge all of you here, we all need to wave hello to everyone who might be joining us online at whitepointbeach.ca. Thanks to Stephen Wilsack, who is here. We are broadcasting live to all the other White Pointers in Toronto and around the world who weren't able to be here. So thanks, Stephen. We certainly have tremendous support here from Picture House as well. You'll see a couple of other cameras moving around. Stephen and Katie were here shortly after the fire to give us a hand at trying to document and celebrate the journey forward. This is the closing chapter of a series of videos as well as blog posts that have been celebrated as part of the quilt of stitching White Pointers together again. Now, why did we end up starting with the quilt? That began back a long time ago. How many of you have quilts at home? I think we got a quilting crew in the house. We all know that quilts come from the hands of loved ones. They're heirlooms that are passed on through families. They're made with love and care and given in that spirit of generosity and family. When we realized we had lost our quilt, it was probably 2 or 3 days later, as I had been the one actually online, joined by the rest of our team, who were being surrounded by warmth, concern, hospitality, food, and everything else that was coming forward, along with, all right, you're rebuilding, do you need some wood? We also had a number of folks, and it was most encapsulated and inspired when, I'm not sure if you could all see this very clearly, but this was a small cartoon that appeared in the Chronicle Herald, where all of you, joined with folks from around the world, kept saying, how can we help? What can we do? And while we've got everybody under the sun coming with their hammers, nails, and saws, probably wasn't the right fit at the time, but what a neat opportunity to create a quilt in a way that everyone could pick up an idea, recall a memory, begin a story, and could we sew that together in a way that would be a legacy, a tribute, a thank you, something that all of us could enjoy today, but most importantly enjoy the journey. And that's when I had turned to Bev Krause, who we had been working with for many years in the past, and I said, what do you think if we made a new quilt? And what if we turned over what should go on the quilt to White Pointers? And then took it another step further and asked them to put their own stitches in. Her response was, in my quilt? something you want me to make? All those people? I said, yeah, what do you think? Let me think on it, she said. So she did go away. She did think about it. And thankfully, 12 months into our journey, we are going to be unveiling that quilt today. The quilt process has included some 24 quilting parties along the way. It's traveled more than 5,000 kilometers to the waterfront in Toronto as part of a trade show where guests from around the world actually stepped forward and sat with Bev, not only stitching but recalling stories. We have stories collected from folks who, again, it was the connect of, those are blocks. Is this going to be a quilt? It all came forward from that. In January, when we released that we were going to do this, and do you have some ideas about what you'd like to see in a quilt? Folks came in online, they gave us phone calls, they sent in letters about what should go on that quilt. In February, it was time for Bev to reveal what those themes would be in our quilt. I think we came down to 13 panels, 13 blocks would sum up what everyone was shooting for. And then we began the process of quilting parties for which more than 500 folks participated in and creating. The journey of the quilt mirrored that of the construction. So step by step as we were going forward, I don't know what happened, Bev. Maybe we got started too late with no, we started before construction of the lodge and we're finishing later. But that wasn't all our fault, right? It was the stitchers in the process? Perhaps. Part of that journey also was, again, if we had the chance to do it all again, maybe our guest book would be a little bit different. Might have a different cover, other than one that glows in the dark and dances. But it was something that Bev had around when we started to do this and said, we should probably capture everyone's signatures, right? And we said, yes. So we will leave this out and around so that you can take a look through, maybe find your own signature on this. How many of you in this room today added your own stitches to our quilt? Holy smokes! Congratulations!